I'm O.W. Root, and this is Pleasant Peninsula. It's a mucky day. It's a soggy day. Lots of brown leaves, gray sky. It can feel like there's nothing beautiful in the world on days like this. You can look out the window and you just don't feel inspiration. You just don't. But if we look up, there's always something beautiful or inspiring to see. The trees blowing in the wind, the branches, the great geese flying above, migrating. You can hear the wings sometimes flapping in the wind. I see my kids sitting on the ground for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, a long time, just silent, just looking up at the sky, just watching those branches move, watching the pine sway back and forth. But we never see it. We never see it because we're always looking down, always looking down at our phones like this, always texting or typing. And if we're not looking down, we're looking eye level. When was the last time you just sat there and looked up and watched the branches, watched the clouds float across the sky, hear the birds chirping and singing? Even on a sad day, a gloomy day, a soggy, wet day where it feels like there's nothing beautiful around, there's still something beautiful if we just look up. We live in a weed dystopia. It's true. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant. It's sad to talk about, but it's the truth. You drive down the road, you see billboard after billboard advertising for weed. It's something that you would have never seen just a few years back, really, in our childhood. Back when I was a kid, growing up in high school, the people who smoked weed all the time, they were considered stoners. And it wasn't a good thing. To be a stoner was not a positive thing. It was a sign you really didn't have much going on. It was not a sign of achievement. Nobody thought that it was a sign of that you had a good trajectory going. It's a negative thing. But not anymore. Now, it's in every crack and corner of our state. It's everywhere. It's some of the smallest towns in our state. You'll find 3, 4, 5 weed shops in one road, in a few blocks. It doesn't help. And that's the key. You know, people litigate all a bunch of different details about this. They'll talk about, well, actually this, actually that, and they'll try to compare it to a bunch of other things. But this is the only thing that matters. And this is the key point here. Has anyone ever recommended that someone start smoking weed if they want to get their life going? Has that ever happened in the history of human civilization? I don't think so. Because it doesn't help you get your life going. It doesn't help you get on the right track. It doesn't help you move in the right direction. And the thing is that it harms the people who need help the most. This isn't just, when you talk about weed, this isn't just, oh, well, I don't like it, and so I'm going to tell you why I don't like it, and it's just total opinion. No, absolutely not. It's practically a humanitarian crisis. And I know that sounds extreme. But I'm very confident that in 10, 15 years, maybe a little more, this view will be validated. And we will look back and we'll say, I can't believe we allowed that. People will look back and say, I can't believe people were getting high all the time. I can't believe that we were advertising in a way that clearly targets young people. I can't believe we had all these stores and places that are already struggling. That is the key. You know, people will say, yeah, look at this guy. He's the most successful person in the world. He's started a bunch of different companies, or he's super brilliant. He's a super high achiever. He's done all this stuff. And he said that he smoked weed here and there. It's just not a big deal. What's the difference? The difference is that is an edge case. Someone who is at the top of their game, 0.001% in the world, the most high-achieving person, brilliant, they're not representative of the broader population. That's an edge case. And it's a classic thing you see a lot in debates like this. They will bring in edge cases as if the edge cases are a meaningful representation of the impact on the general population. It's very easy to get lost down that rabbit hole and think, or that line of reasoning, and think that that's a legitimate argument. It's not. Put those edge cases aside. The normal person does not benefit from weed. The person who, the young kid, the young guy, young girl, or middle-aged, whatever, however old you are, who is struggling to get by in an exceedingly or an increasingly confusing world, a world of difficult. We're struggling with how do we relate to technology, jobs, the economy, all of this. We're going through a great change in our society right now. And instead of a helpful path, what weed offers is a path of tuning out, zoning out, numbing out, becoming less yourself, less vital, less strong, and with less spirit. Next, I want to take a look at a reel from Caleb Wallace Holm. So let's roll that.
On the edge of downtown Detroit stands a 4-story building bursting with used books. In 1983, John K. King Books moved into the abandoned Advance Glove Factory from its spot inside the Michigan Theater. There's something haunted about the place, with its yellowed pages and the distinct smell of dust, mothballs, and something a little bit damp that would be concerning if it weren't so seductive. In shelves loaded with some of the most well-known and beloved novelists from the past 2 centuries. In the back were books on foreign and dead languages, mythologies from cultures long gone, and works from saints and theologians who had conquered the pagans on the shelves before them. The run-down industrial look inside is haunting and cool, but the books in the store subtly intimate that no one is reading them. Detroit, like the rest of the Rust Belt, follows the tradition of the postbellum South. It is in the midst of a Gothic decline, propped up by memories of greatness and industry. But if you go to John King's more often, you'll at least get some good books out of the ordeal.
I love that story. I love that reel. I love old books in old bookstores. These shelves full of these tomes that haven't been touched in years. It's a reminder of the physical world, the physicality of information. In our digital age, in our internet age, it feels like we can get any book we want. We can read anything we want. We can access any kind of information like that. Download a PDF, get it on Kindle. It feels as though it's all infinite. It feels as though everything is just in the air, in the vapor. We forget about the physicality of these things. And when you're in a great, huge, old used bookstore like that, you feel the physicality of that information in a way that you can never feel looking at the internet or downloading a PDF. And there's something about time and history and other people with those pages. You know, you pick up a book, an old book, at one of these bookstores, and you flip through it, and you might see a name in there, a date when they bought it. And you think, and you say, who was that? Who was that? And you think about them holding that book in their hands and reading it. And you wonder, where did they read this? And especially if it's a book that's really been read. You know, the pages are really worn and the binding is rough. And you know that someone learned something from this. And they took that in their heart and their mind, and they held it in their hands, and then they put it on their shelf, and then they gave it to the store, and now you're holding it. And there's something so beautifully human about that. It's so human. It's when you encounter that, when you grab that, when you hold that, it's a feeling that is special. And it's one that's forgotten in our digital age, that humanness. I'm O.W. Root for Michigan Enjoyer.